Hello traders and welcome back to another market update. My name is Nick, and in today's video, as per usual, we're going to be taking a look at the currency market for potential trade setups, zones, resistance areas, support zones, all the good stuff that we look in our technical analysis for to see what's going on in the world of the major currency pairs. Let's go ahead and start out with EURUSD as we usually do and talk about this trend line here that we have just recently broken through. Now, if you notice right here, if we zoom in a little bit here, you can see that on EURUSD, price has been trading downwards. It's been trending strongly to the downside, but recently we've had a nice spike over this trend line area and price has found its way past that major structure zone. To me, this was a pretty good indication that price was bullish for the time being, and that if we got a potential pullback, which we have, that would be a potentially good idea to look for long ideas if it meets your criteria. So with that said, price broke through, pulled back, found support along that trend line and bounced from it so far. From here, the question will be, can we see some continuation off of that bounce, or are we going to break lower? You can see price is still in a relatively consolidated or sideways movement right here. And from going forward, if price does decide to break further, we have some zones that we could consider to look at. If we just get a horizontal line, you can see we could talk about this zone here. This looks like a pretty interesting area or a pretty interesting target for price. If you did get long or you look to get long down in this area, could be an interesting area to find some sort of target if price does decide to continue to rally up. Let's talk about GBPUSD here. Looking at the 4-hour chart, you can see price is extremely bullish. If we back it up to the daily, you can see that we do have kind of a trend forming, a counter trend to the dominant trend on that longer term time frame, right? And if we also draw this zone here, you can see that price is currently testing a major trend line level. Price broke through its kind of downward structure here and has been rallying hard on GBPUSD. And if we add one more indicator here, if we add the moving average, the 200-day moving average, you can see that price did close above that 200-day, which is significant in terms of bullish momentum. If price could stay above that 200-day moving average, that to me might indicate that the longer term trend may be shifting to the long side and buying opportunities could be looked for along the way. USDJPY is going to be our next one. You can see if we take a look at the daily chart, we are hovering around a major level of resistance, and price, in my opinion, might roll over here. I think it's a pretty good chance that we see some sort of continued rejection as we have started to see in this level of resistance. Short term, we might have some targets. You can see if we just highlight this area here, pulling back to that area might be a start. And then longer term, we could even be headed back to test this area here where you can see we have supportive structure here, we had some support here, and we could see price roll its way over down to test that area. That would be a healthy pullback zone, especially if it lined up nicely with this trend line here. Price often likes to pull back to major levels of support or resistance in its momentum. It's very healthy for a trend to pull back, find continued buyers or sellers, and then continue. So let's go ahead and move on to the next one, which is going to be Brent crude. Let's talk about oil for a minute here, and we'll pull it back to the daily chart. Price for the most part on oil, very choppy recently. We have seemed to find a bottom down here in this area. You can see price has bounced once and then a second time and a third time, fourth time here, and for the most part has been holding that zone. If price comes back down to this area, we'll see how price can react, but for the most part, I would imagine that price can hold this zone bullish from here. See if we can get a little bit bigger of a bounce. Now, WTI crude is going to look pretty similar. You can see if we pull up the daily chart and zoom in a little bit, you can see same kind of structure. We have this bottom here that price has been holding very nicely. And for the most part, we've seen the buyers been able to keep that level above, kind of keep it above water there, if you will. And so going forward, if price can bounce a little bit further, there might be some opportunities to look for a bounce continuation or buying opportunities in this market, especially if we start to see some bullish structure. Let's go ahead and talk about gold really quick. Everybody wants to talk about gold. Gold on the daily chart still looking bearish, right? You can see price, this trend line that we had drawn, held very nicely, and now it looks like price is coming into contact with the major zone of support that we've been talking about here on the market updates. If we can break through this level, guys, this is going to be a very bearish indication, in my opinion, on gold. Okay, if price can break through that level convincingly and we get some sort of pullback, that could be a very nice trend continuation or a start to a downtrend that we might see happen or unfold on XAU USD. Let's talk about USDCAD, and we'll talk about it on the daily chart. You can see price on this pair very, very choppy, and for the most part, really not too decisive. I did want to point out, though, that this trend line here did get broken, and it did get retested. You can see price came up into this area, found sellers short term, and fell from there. Now, if we can break through some of this support structure at the lows, there might be some breakout trades for short-term traders who like to trade breakouts. Might be some opportunities to look for a short along the bottom of this move if we can break through convincingly, find some retests, or some sort of confirmation that you like in your trading. So let's go to EURGBP for the last one here. And you can see EURGBP absolutely fell off a cliff this week with the GBP pairs moving so crazy. Now, the question here is, when is this thing going to stop falling, and when is it going to start rising? And for the most part, you can see we have a lot of momentum to the downside or to the sell side on EURGBP. And so this longer term level of support may be tested. Now, it might not be immediate. We might get some sort of bounce before then. In fact, I would think that it's likely that we get some sort of a bounce. We are coming into contact with a level of support here, right? If we look on that daily chart, price is currently reacting or responding somewhat to this zone of support here, as price did kind of find its way on a little bounce here in the London session. Now, the question from here going forward is, are we going to roll over and continue down to this level? And if so, I think that buyers might have a chance of holding this zone very nicely. But I think that even before then, we might get some sort of minor pullback on EURGBP. That's just my opinion going off the technicals. Guys, thanks so much for watching. I hope you got something out of the video, and we'll catch you next time.